Hi guys, it's me, Fan of Fat Bullfights biggest fan. And I'm sorry for not uploading for a long time. I'm just sorry, I think I practically have no excuses for uploading last week. So, yeah. Thank you for 60 subscribers, and I'll try and get my subscriber goal pilot going up. I need to get the voice actors ready, and I'm gonna try and make the pilot. Until that, I'll make this video when I get until the pilot. So yeah, let's start the video. Okay. You guys loved the last video, so let's go at it again. You might be asking yourself, what else can you add to this argument? Actually, a lot. In fact, I was wrong about Blot and Brusha's relationship. Because Brusha isn't that clingy. Or at least what we saw from that communication. So, yeah. And I'll also be explaining some other parts. And trying to make this more of a modified theory on how Blot was born, and that Blot is actually made out of mostly ichor, not an ink blot, mostly ichor. So, let's get on with the video. Let's get on with more of it. Okay. The thing that I have to be honest with is that I was completely wrong about Brusha and Blot's relationship. Because of this conversation with Brusha and Blot. This one right here. It practically says about Brusha being like, hey, maybe instead of helping Scraps out, you can help me out. And before anybody says that Brusha uses Blot as paint, no, she doesn't. Do you know why I know that? Because of her paintings. She is painting paintings shades of purple. And also, if you look at her character, she has shades of purple on her character, including on her brush and apron. So I highly doubt that Brusha is using Blot for paint. And it looks like Blot actually has a loving relationship with Brusha, or at least on a simple term. And when I sit down, I'll explain how my theory makes absolute sense on how Brusha is Blot's mom. If we forget everything about what I said last video, it can still make sense. Before everybody says that besides Toodles, that everybody's like the same age, actually not, there's this grandpa character. So I highly doubt that they're simple ages. And for an estimate on how old Brusha is, I'll be using Roger. Roger is the father of Toodles that we can see in this picture. And this also is estimated due to both of them having pajama skins, where they're wearing pajamas. So yeah, also Brusha to me at least looks a lot more older than the other toons. So yeah, it makes absolute sense. We also know that Blot is depicted with only one eye, and a Blot Jr. with a drawn-on eye. This could also be connected to Brusha's paintings that have eyes on it. Technically speaking, that. My theory is that Brusha made Blot herself as a passion project. That could explain why Blot Jr. exists. Maybe not as a living vessel for Blot, but as a prototype, as a sculpture to see how Blot would work out. That would explain why it has a drawn-on eye instead of an actual eye. Because it was just Brusha planning out what Blot would be. Then she made him into a real person. This makes a lot of sense. If she used ichor for most of the process, that means that Blot is all made out of ichor, like 100% ichor. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, in my opinion. And it also explains why Blot leaves puddles on the floor all the time. Because he's made out of ichor. He might have become twisted, but yeah, he could just be practically entirely ichor. And that, in my opinion, that makes a lot of sense. So now, on to why I think that there's a conflict with the other toons. And I'll be back with you after I do a lot more research. Okay. I did some research. And by looking at the wiki, there's no communication between Louis with Brusha and Yada with Brusha. So, there's an explanation why that would make sense. Let me give you an example. If your son was on a soccer team, you don't like soccer, but you go to a soccer game anyways, you wouldn't care about his team, you'd care about him. Only him. You wouldn't put much focus on the other people. So, I think that makes absolute sense why Brusha doesn't talk to them. Because, 2 reasons. 1, Brusha doesn't care that much about Blot's friends who actually make a relationship between his friends. And 2, Brusha can be more toxic than toxic waste. So, Blot might try to protect his friends from them. That I think makes absolute sense by using those factors. And I think that fits pretty well with all of that. And I think it can explain a lot about Brusha as a person. She cares about her family, that's her and Blot. And that she loves her art but doesn't like anyone else's. And puts them down every single time. That makes her toxic. However, I think she's loving and caring to Blot. Because I think that she made Blot as her own work of art. So, yeah. That does explain a lot with her. However, we do have the other hand, where we have Vee. And I'll be going on to her. Okay, after doing further research, there's proof that Vee might be a better person than Brusha, but not that much. Maybe even a lot more worse. Yeah, Vee's a lot more worse than Brusha. Let me explain. These conversations with Louis and Toodles. With Louis and Yada. She calls Yada Pinata. Pinata! So yeah, there's obviously she's not that interested in them. And then we have Louis. She says, dead? No. Doesn't say, I'm too busy. Sorry, I'm too busy. She just says, dead no. And we know she doesn't give a crap about either of them, because she only cares about Blot. She's so down bad for Blot that she would just want to take them all to herself. And she might at least have the consistency of best communicating with them. But yeah, Vee's not as good. Vee isn't as better as Brusha. So yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, that makes a lot of instant sense. So yeah, let's get on to the final conflict between Brusha and Vee. They clash only once, and that's because I think it's about plot. They both say bad stuff about their own mediums, like TV show and painting, because Vee just wants plot to herself, and that means she doesn't want him meeting up with his mother. And Brusha doesn't approve of Vee that much. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a very big conflict. However, there is a mediator. There's one that's gonna try and stop the conflict. Tegan. Yes. If we look at their conversations with both Vee, but mostly Brusha, she's like, what did I tell you, Brusha, about putting down others? And yeah, Brusha is like the mediator. The straight up mediator. So she might not do that much effort, or at least would try, but maybe would fail. But I think it would be a big success for for Tegan to actually mediate the arguments between Vee and Brusha. So yeah, that's the conclusion of my video. In conclusion, Vee and Brusha are both bad people that like to fight over plot. And Tegan is the mediator, making sure that things don't get that much out of hand. I'll see you on the next video. Like and subscribe.